Bam, 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 bam. So I am so excited to be sitting with Damian. Damian was the tour guide that Miro and I had when we took the Teleferico tour. And that tour was through Hanapacha Tours. And we are sitting with Damian. And you've corrected me on how to say your name. Now, you are the guide. You speak beautiful English. But besides being a guide, can you tell our audience what else you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, hi, Damian. Being a tour guide is my part-time job. My actual current career is medical doctor, but I'm being a tour guide almost 2 years because I love sharing my culture, my city. I'm in love with La Paz City. And well, as you said before, my English it's good, and sadly enough, finding Bolivian people that speak good English is a difficult time for us.
Yeah, this is true. The reason why I wanted to schedule this interview is, first of all, I didn't record the tour while we did the tour, but it was so educational and we learned so much, and we wanted to do a quick follow-up to that. So when we wrote about the tour, this would go along with that post. So I wanted to know if you could share, besides speaking great English and besides being a medical doctor, you're also very versed in the city's history, and it shows. Could you give us just a quick overview of what the Teleferico tour is, and then I'm going to ask you some specifics.
Yeah, sure. Well, in the Teleferico tour, we see not just the city in a different way that the Teleferico give us, it's above the city, but we see a lot of the cultural stuff about the city. We see a lot about the history, and we share a lot about how people live here in Bolivia. They live, not just the city, but we speak a lot about the people, the culture, and of course the city.
Yeah, and I learned so much history that was not in the books from you, and actually immersing ourselves and being a part of it, it made a lot of sense. Before we dive into the history of the specifics of the city, could you share a little bit of how La Paz came to be in the location that it is today?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, actually that's interesting history. The Spaniards used to have a fight in Lima, where the Virreinado was established, and the biggest city in that time was Lima. But between Lima and the biggest mine of silver in Potosí was a very hard trip and very long trip. So the people who used to take all the silver from Potosí to Lima, they used to die, they get robbed, or they get to Lima in bad conditions. So the Spaniards, they decided that need an intermediate city between Lima and Potosí. But also at the beginning of the 15th century, a civil war between Spaniards began because the Pizarro brothers started to betray the King of Spain and take some silver from themselves. So after the Spanish Civil War ended, at the best European style, they decided that they need a sign of a signal of peace for the King of Spain. And that's basically the reason of why La Paz City is called La Paz.
La Paz translates to the peace.
The original name was actually Our Lady of the Peace, Nuestra Señora de la Paz. And it's in this exact point because the Pizarro brothers sent Alonso Mendoza, the man in charge, to the foundation of the city. Now, he founded the city basically grabbing a map of that time, and he put a ruler between Potosí and Lima, and right in the middle of the map, he founded the city of La Paz. That point, it's actually 29 or 30 kilometers all at the east from the actual city of La Paz. And because that point in the middle of the map was actually an isolated place in the highlands, so the soil nothing what's gonna grow up in that soil. They didn't have water or mountains or tree or whatever to protect for the environment. So luckily enough, one of the priests that came here with Alonso Mendoza, he knew the area because he was part of the Franciscans that came here with the Spaniard also. And he told Alonso Mendoza, why don't we go back 3 days walking from here, and we're gonna see a beautiful valley with trees and river, and it's a better place to a city. So Alonso Mendoza give it a try. 3 days walking from there. The 23rd of October of 1548, they find out this beautiful valley where La Paz is in right now, and they find out that in the main river called Choqueyapu, they used to have gold. So gold and Spanian, it's a good combination. So that's why the city of La Paz it's right here in this unusual place for a city. You're gonna see it if you don't know it. It's a beautiful city and it's quite unusual.
It's a beautiful city and it's a massive city. It blew me away when we were able to view the city from above from the Teleferico. And we'll talk about the Teleferico in just a moment, but tell me first, how big is La Paz today? How many people live here?
Just in the city of La Paz, we have 2.4 million of people, but just in the center of La Paz. Now, all the other cities that are in the La Paz state, we are more than 3.5 million.
And there are cities up above called El Alto, yeah?
Yeah, actually El Alto is a different city. A lot of people believe that La Paz city it's both La Paz and El Alto. But actually the El Alto is one of the youngest cities that we have in the country, and it's only 25 years. And in the city of El Alto they have 0.6 million of people in only 25 years. So
that's amazing. So coming back to La Paz, though, La Paz was founded in what was the year?
48.
1548. And this is a colonial city. This is not an indigenous city that was taken over and built upon. This is truly a colonial built city.
Yeah, well, actually, La Paz city, as the main idea of the Spaniard, was an intermediate city. The Spaniard came here and they divided into sides, one Spaniard side and one indigenous side. Of course, in the indigenous side, the Spaniard can walk and take all the mineral that they could. And in the Spaniard side, the indigenous, they weren't allowed to walk even there. So that part of the Spaniard side here in La Paz City is well preserved. So yeah, you can see a lot, actually in the downtown area, a lot of the Spaniard architectural style, the European style in the colonial streets. We are having a great amount of buildings and streets that still remain the colonial style.
And when the city was built, you just said there were two different sides. Can you talk about what remains today and how you can identify what was what?
Yeah, well, actually the highlight in the indigenous side is actually the witches market. It's the market where you buy all the items for performing the indigenous ceremonies for the indigenous gods, like the Mother Earth, the Pachamama, the God Sun, the Tata Inti, and all the gods of the indigenous culture. And in the Spaniard side, you can see the streets and as we call the Casco Urbano Central, El Viejo Casco. You can see the streets, the buildings, the construction looks way too European for us because it wasn't made by European people, the Spaniards.
And I heard a story that there's a bridge that the indigenous could not cross over unless they had a coin in their hand.
Yeah, well, basically, actually the beginning of the idea of taxes for the indigenous population. We used to have the two sides of the city divided by the main river. So the only way to go from one city to another one was for a bridge. And when the Spaniards find out that, wait, we're going to need some indigenous people to work for us here in this part, we can't accept all of them. So they have to pay tax for like an entrance fee for going inside or the Spaniard side of the city.
And some of the highlights of the Teleferico tour that we went on was seeing the different churches and seeing the different sides of the old history. But we're also looking at some very modern history, if you will. Some of the changes, like that hill on the top of the hill, the neighborhood on the top of the hill on the way up to like El Alto, before you get to El Alto, is that right?
No,
No,
it's neighborhood. It's in
the
green
yellow line. Green line, great. Yellow, then to the green. That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, we begin the Teleferico tour in the colonial part of the city, so the Spanish part of the city. Then we move in the red line to the city of El Alto. The city of El Alto, it's considered one of the poorest cities because the cost of living in the city of El Alto it's cheaper than the city of La Paz and cheaper than the rest of the states in Bolivia. I would say the most of them. Then we go to the witches market in the city of El Alto, which is different in the city of La Paz. Then we go to the yellow line. Now, with the yellow line, we start to see the differences between the poor, the medium, and the high class of the population that we have here in La Paz. Because at the beginning of the yellow line, we see houses that are medium class or low class. But since we are moving to the south, we are approaching to the south and we are start to see, first of all, finished houses. And second, we see huge houses. And in the San Alberto neighborhood, we see the most beautiful houses that I see in my life here in Bolivia, because that is the most exclusive neighborhood that we have in the city and probably in the whole country. So in the Teleferico tour, we don't see only the city, we see the difference between the people here in the city.
Yeah, it was a wonderful variety and taking a bird's eye view to be able to see all the different facets of modern life as well as the history that's interwoven into the actual city of La Paz. Before we sign out, could you talk a little bit about just a little background of what the Teleferico is, who built it, and how long it's been here, and why it's here?
Yeah, sure. Now, the Teleferico, a lot of people, they believe that this is another touristic attraction that we have. But the main idea of the company, Doppelmayr, to build this cable car, this Teleferico, was to mass transportation, because we can have subways here. In Bolivia, we don't have one subway. And in La Paz City, it's because due to the geography, everything is uphill, downhill, so it's quite hard. But besides that, we have 3 big rivers that are still going under us, so making the soil very unstable. So at least 1.7 million of people moves between the city of La Paz to the city of El Alto, or in vice versa, to work, to study, or just to see some of the park.
To shop, to visit family. Exactly. Yeah.
So we need a mass transportation type of, transportation, the redundance. And the company built it. The first one was the red one. It started works in May of 2014, so the last year. The second one was the yellow one, started works in September. And the third one was the green one, started works in December of the last year. So 3 actual lines that we have right now, but this cable car, this Teleferico, works that well for the population that the government has allowed this year, saying that we're going to have 6 more lines until the end of the 2017. So we're going to have 9 lines trying to connect all the city of La Paz. But even with 9 cable car lines, 9 telefericos, we can be able to move from one point to the last point of the city of La Paz. It's amazing. And in the teleferico, we can see some unusual things, like we told before, the most exclusive neighborhood. We can see some stairs that holds BMX or dangerous extreme downhills. And we can see in the red line a car trapped in the mountain. Now, sadly enough, that is part of the red line
tour.
But of course, it was an accident. In 2011, actually, due to the manufacturing of the car, we can tell that it was basically that part of the history that we don't know. Maybe it was an accident, maybe it was a suicide or something like that. A car get trapped in the middle of the mountain. So you can see it in the middle of the red line going up from the city of La Paz to the city of El Alto, a shiny spot. If you take a closer look, you're gonna see it's a car well trapped in the mountain because the firemen, they tried to take it out, but they couldn't. So, like I told you before, sadly enough, it's part of the red line. Of
the red line tour too.
The red line.
And you told us, of course, Mira was like, oh, yes, I want to know the details. The person is still in there. So because they couldn't remove the car, obviously they couldn't remove the person too. And the crazy thing is, it's a crevice. It's a very, very, very thin crevice about the width of the car. So the car had to perfectly find a way to go down to this crevice. I don't know, go over the cliff. I don't know how they could have done that. How could you be so specific with your car crashing? I don't know. Wonderful. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about the Teleferico tour?
Well, the most of people believe that the Teleferico is a touristic attraction, but it's not. It works like that because we can see the city in a different point of view, and you're gonna learn a lot about not just the city, the houses, the people, the culture, and everything. So if you are trying to get more knowledge about La Paz and Bolivia, it's one of the best ways to get it in a fun and beautiful way.
And educational. That is the reason why I wanted to follow up with you here, because Miro and I learned so much from you and from this experience, and it was just an incredible, incredible way to see the city. So we fell in love with La Paz, and we fell in love with the tour, and we're just so happy that you had time to talk to us afterwards, and we can put this on to our blog post as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll put all the information below on how to book a tour. If you're in La Paz, please do take this tour with Untitled Travel, and the information will be below. Thank you. That's it. We're out.
Thank you for joining us, and of course for the interview, and I hope the best of the luck for you and mine.
Thank you.
See you.